So, welcome to our next English webinar. Today I show you how to commission and test an IP-TNA 4i in evalink Live. Shortly to my person, my name is Karol Nowotny. I work for Sitasys now for about 6 years. I am also at the hotline. Maybe you had contact with me already. Yeah, that's shortly to me. And I will show you today the installation and test of the IP-TNA 4i. So I would say we start directly. I log in to evalink Live, or I'm already logged in evalink Live. For this case, some things are already done. So the order of the device is already done. I will not show this in this webinar. So the device is ready for installation now. And for today's case, I start from this point. So, okay, I select the prepared device in evalink Live and go to Configure to start the installation. So the first thing is now the installation of the transmission device in the object. And the next step is then power on the device until we see here the connections are ready. I will do that now. Power on the device. Now we have to wait about 1 minute until the lines are ready. Until then, I will tell you some things about the webinar software. You are able to ask questions. Simply do that over the Q&A section here in the webinar software. Feel free to ask questions during the webinar or at the end of the webinar. I will stay a few minutes when we are finished to answer questions. Okay. And until it's ready, I will explain you the points here in evalink Live. And I hope when I finished with that, we have the connections here. So here under network configuration, you have the ability to set a fixed IP address or set DHCP. For my device, I have here DHCP. In the most cases, this is the right setting, but you are able to set a static IP address here in this section. Then we have a firmware version of the device, and if the firmware version is below the official firmware version, you are able here to update the firmware of the device. Then under device information, you find some quick infos to the device, like device number, MAC address, quote number, customer number, and so on. So in the event history, you will find the last events from the device, and you can send then this PDF to yourself or to another person. It's really helpful for error analysis, failure analysis, and so on. So in the SLA section, you're able to set and change the service level agreements. Simply choose here one of the drop-down menu and assign it. Then the next step, device monitoring. And here you see all configured components of the transmission device. So this device was ordered with 2 sensors, intrusion and fire, with 1 output and the technical components. Here is important to say that every component that are ordered has to be tested during the installation. So if you order here a second power supply and in the object there is no second power supply, please contact us. Then we can remove here the second power supply and otherwise the test will not be successful. We will see that later. So the configuration protocol, this is simply a PDF file which shows you the configuration of the transmission device. You can send it to yourself or every other person you want. Then one really easy and good step is here the device replacement. You can very easily replace a transmission device if needed. You have simply to add here the new MAC address of the new device, and all the configuration that is saved on the platform and not on the device are then automatically transmitted to the new device. So the only thing you have to do is to enter here the new MAC address for a device replacement. So, and the last point here is the transmission test, and this I will show you now. Like expected, we have now the landline and mobile lines are connected, and that's the precondition we need to start the transmission test. So I will do that now. It asks me if I'm sure to begin the transmission test. I confirm by clicking on Start. So the transmission test guides you through the test, or evalink Live guides you through the transmission test, and you have to follow the messages that appear here. And now the first step is I have to put the device into the test mode. And for that, I have to press switch 1 on the device for 2 seconds. And I hope then will be the test mode activated. The device is here on my left. And it has worked. The device is now in test mode, and I can start the test. I will explain first here the areas, and then I will start the test. In the top, you find simulations. This is a very good thing to simulate technical component errors. If you open the drop-down, you see you can simulate all failures. You can simulate the power DC failure. You can simulate fixed net or mobile failures, or both together. Or you can simulate all failures, including the power DC failure. This is really helpful. You don't need to disconnect the Ethernet cable to test the fixed net. You don't need to remove the SIM card to test the mobile failure. And you don't have to power off the device to test the power DC failure. So these simulations are really helpful for you to do a quick installation and a quick test. I start now the all failures because it takes a few minutes until it's done, and during that I will explain the rest of the page. I start this now, and you see here in this box which components are already tested, and if here is a green OK check sign, then the test is successfully transmitted to the ARC, and also the answer of the ARC are correct. Everything is good in this case. So in this, with this drop-down, I can test the outputs. I will do that if the simulation is finished. And here under wiring schema, you find all the components and the test state. You see here on the left the green bars, and they tells you that these components are tested. Now the simulation has GPRS successfully tested, and therefore we see here also a green bar. So the test is still running. If it's finished, we should have here at least the availability status also tested. Yeah, now this is the last test. It disconnects the Ethernet and the GPRS now, and then we will have a complete device failure. Yeah, it has worked. So the simulation is finished in a few seconds. You see here a timer, remaining time 16 minutes. If some problems appears during the simulation will be stopped after that time automatically, so you don't stay in this simulation forever. So simulation is completed. I will forward to the next test steps, and this is to test the output. I simply select the configured output and can switch the actor here by clicking on on. Maybe you have heard it, the device has clicked, so I have triggered a local alarm on the side. And I can switch off it, so the local alarm, the output is tested now also. The output don't have a green bar here, but that's not a problem. So now I have 3 components left to test. This is the cover contact and 2 sensors. For these components, there is no simulation. You have to test the sensors at real. So I will trigger the cover contact on the device. Yeah, it has worked. You can open here these components, and then you see in detail what's going on. We see here there was an alarm triggered to Sitasys demo tech target and Talos demo D001, and it has answered with FB feedback code OK. Everything is good in this case. And so you can check every component, what was the answer from the ARC and what was the result of the test. So I now trigger sensor 1 and sensor 2. That has worked. And sensor 2. Also worked. So everything has worked. I can open this also to see what happened here. Also the ARC has answered with a feedback code OK. Everything is good now. So until now, you don't have to contact the ARC. They must know that you test before you start. It is helpful if you contact the ARC, but during the test, it's not necessary that you are on the phone with some person. This test routine helps you during the test, and you see the answers of the ARC, and if something is wrong, you see it here, and then you can contact the ARC person. So I will explain here the expert mode and the event logs quickly. In the expert mode, you see the same like in the simple mode, but a little bit detailed, more detailed. You see here on one view what's going on during the test. You see the transmission time and also the feedback codes, the destinations of the alarms, and so on. This is the expert mode is very detailed. I recommend to use the simple mode. It has a better overview than an expert mode. So, and in the event log, you see a little history of the test. I see here the last tested components, the inputs, which digital value it had, and what are the destinations of the alarms, and how long it takes to transmit the alarm message from the transmission device to the ARC and back the answer to the transmission device. So these times can be helpful if you have high service level agreements that must be in a specific range, these delays. So that's all, but as I said, I recommend to use the simple mode. It's very easy to handle and it has a good overview. So the test is finished now. I click on next. I then receive a simple statistic of the test, and I can now end the test by clicking here on End Test. And now, if everything is okay and every component was tested, the test protocol should be successful. Yes, perfect. You see it with the bar here, if the test is successful or not. And then you see all tested components, what time they needed to transfer the alarm message. On the right side, you see the technical components, like the connections and power supply. Then on the next page, you see the event log, detailed test protocol. And on the last page, you see the configuration of the device. You see on the last page, you see also some informations to the network, which IP address the transmission device has received, and also very important, the GPRS data, like signal strength. This can be very helpful to position the antenna in a good place. Yes. Yeah, this is the test certificate. It is saved in evalink Live, so you can always access on all your test certificates, but you can send it also by email. Simply click here on send, and it is automatically sent to you to your email address that is configured here under account. So that was the test. I forgot something to say. I will do that now, because for this webinar I have prepared already a device. In a real case, it will not be prepared that much as my device was, and there are two small things that appears if you commission really a new device. And the first one is the password, the access level password. The first one is to enter the MAC address of the device. So if you first log into evalink Live and select your device and click on configure, then you have to enter first the MAC address of the device. For my device, I have already done this, so this step was not in my process. But if you have a complete new device, you have to enter the MAC address first. If the MAC address is appeared, you see here a little confirm message at the bottom of evalink Live. And the second one, if you start for the first time the test, the transmission test, you have to enter access level passwords. There are two access levels, access level 2 and 3. The first one is already set. You don't have to access a password for level 1, only for level 2 and 3. And the access level passwords provides you authorized access to the web server of the device. These access level passwords are defined according to the EN 50136-2 standard. So you have only do that once at the beginning if you install for the first time the device, and then they are saved on the device. And if you need to access the web browser of the device, you have to enter these access level passwords. So that's all. We are finished with the commissioning of the transmission device and test the device. I'm stay here for a few minutes to answer questions if there are. If not, I will thank you for the participation of the webinar. Please visit evalink.io. We have much more planned webinars in German and also in English. And feel free to participate also on these webinars in the future. And I will be happy if we will see us again in the next webinar. So, as I said, I will stay for a few minutes to answer questions. And otherwise, I wish you a nice day and see you next time. Bye. So there are no questions. Therefore, I will close now the webinar. Again, thank you and see you next time. Have a nice day. Bye.